Well, here it is. Year 6 of Marvel Crisis Protocol and all the paint jobs of the new content for the game. There wasn't much this year. It's a very lean year. There was a lot of reissues and repackaging of old terrain sets and old figures in like box sets and team affiliation boxes and stuff. So thankfully, I did not have to paint as much this year because, I don't know, I still enjoy the hobby, but it fades a little bit each time I have to paint. And I'm going to stick with the game as long as new content is being made for it, unless, of course, they do the stupid second edition of a game that makes all the original figures and rules invalidated in favor of the new stuff. But right now, let's take a look at Year 6 paint jobs. This is CA13 War of Kings. This is Gladiator, who comes in that pack. Now, as usual, lightning effects were the bane of my existence. Plus, I really messed up with all the yellows and reds. I painted yellow last. Should have done it first. So I overcompensated wash to hide the bleeding colors, which I could not fix no matter what I did. He came out table ready, though. So, satisfactory enough. I also tried to go more sci-fi or alien with his base, and I believe there is such a thing as going too alien, because now it's just a metallic glittery purple and it doesn't really look like anything. I'm not too pleased with this figure, but I don't know the character, so I'm not too invested in getting him absolutely perfect, just in a playable state. So, Gladiator, ready to hit the table. CP83, Phoenix and Phoenix Unleashed. Not happy with how these ones turned out. I primed them primarily black. I could not get my yellows and oranges and reds to blend. Everything just started to fade through the black priming, and just all in all, I was in a hurry to finish them up. Not much else to say about them. I just kind of screwed them up. They're table ready, I guess. They can still be played with, and they function just as they're supposed to in the game. I just will always know that I knew I could have painted better. But not every one of them is going to be a hit, especially when you rush once you realize a mistake and then just don't fix it and keep plowing through it. CP126, Youndu and Nova. So I had a rough time painting Youndu's flesh because I don't really paint blue skin that often. Came out okay though. I didn't really have any of the Army Painter alien plants, so I sloppily threw some paint on the regular green plants. As for Nova, he was pretty fun to paint up. I based him black, then I dry brushed some dark blue, and then I did a contrast of some dark blue on him as well. Added some sparkly effects to his takeoff cloud. I don't know. This is CP166, the Inhuman Royal Court. I have King Blackbolt, Maximus the Mad, Gorgon, and Karnak. Now, I don't know much of anything about the Inhumans. They're kind of lame to me. So these guys are all pretty much just table ready. Didn't spend an overly long amount of time on them. I'm happy with how they all came out. Tried some different colors. Tried to keep them as close as to the colors that were on the box as possible. But it looks like, I think Gorgon is the one that I went furthest off the rails with. Not too bad for each of these characters, though. That was all I really have to say about them. None of them were too much of a problem to paint. I did try to get some, get in so we can get an angle up on the faces. Gave him orange eyes. And as usual, the camera definitely shows my sloppiness and shakiness when you get really close. But from 3 feet away, which is the goal, they look great, in my opinion. Can't really tell that he's got two different colors in his mouth for tongue and gums or whatever. There you go. This is CP168. We have Echo, Ronin, and Tigra. I'm a little more pleased with how these ones came out. Echo, not so much, but Ronin and Tigra were fun to paint. I don't really know or care about the character Echo. Ronin, I think Hawkeye's lame, but this outfit is cool, so he got a pretty decent paint job. And Tigra, I just felt like actually putting a little effort into these figures. I went with the colors that were suggested from their outfits from comic appearances and the box appearances and everything, and did a little special basing on Tigra. And I actually gave Ronin his second sword in addition to the optional bow. And I also went with the hooded, masked faced option. I did not like the no hood broccoli haircut option for Hawkeye. So yeah, and Echo, I just threw some color on her. That's it for this set. CP 169, Prowler, Spider-Man 2099, and Ultimate Spider-Man. Now I kept Prowler in his traditional colors. I went Spider-Man 2099 with a real dark blue and dark red, because that's how I remembered him from a toy we had. There's a random spider. And I went with a Prowler-inspired costume for Ultimate Spider-Man, because I already have a traditional black and red Miles Morales figure, and I don't like to just repeat the, I guess you would call it, the canon colors for the unit or the character once they have an alternate version come out. Now the lighting here is, I guess in real life it looks fine, but here it looks dark on the figure. I can't really get the detail that I want to for some reason, but whatever I did with Prowler, he just looks wet. I couldn't get the paint to like dry. It always looks wet. And with Spider-Man 2099, I took a Doe's coffee package and cut it up, as you can see, quite sloppily, and just glued it to his base because I wanted to nod to the Spider-Verse movies and give him a little holographic. And I went some glittery paint on his base as well as his web, which I did silver instead of white just to give it that futuristic feel. And I gave him his traditional yellow electricity highlighted with some orange and some orange ink to bring out the shading. This is a neat little set, but I think I've had enough of Spider-Verse people for a while. CP 170. That's Silk, Spider-Man Noir, and Spider-Ham. I can tell I just didn't want to paint these. I don't really like the spider people theme of Marvel. Spider-Man is okay, but there's just too many. Spider-Ham is one of my least favorite characters, and my paint jobs kind of reflect this. Silk on the left is likely one of my worst paint jobs in recent history. White is just terrible. My colors bled. It just looks bad. I tried to get the webbing to transition from red to black like on the cover of the photo, but it just looks like I bled red through all the white, and I painted the white last, so whatever. I gave a little nod to Into the Spider-Verse with a little Rubik's Cube on the base of Spider-Man Noir, and Spider-Man, or Spider-Ham, I just slapped some color on. Yeah. They look fine for the table, they play fine, but I was not interested in any of these characters, and maybe it's just the fact I don't paint as often as I used to, but I can tell I am getting progressively worse. CP 173, Avalanche, Exodus, and Lady Mastermind. As per usual, I hate eyeballs, and I hate explosions. So, pretty sloppy on this one, especially Lady Mastermind. My wet blending and stuff, just not up to where it should be. And can also tell that my paints that I've had for several years are getting old. They require more thinning. They are just not applying like they should. Anyway, Avalanche, blue and silver, he came out okay. Exodus came out the best from this set, although I still just not great at explosions and clouds and things. Lady Mastermind, definitely the weakest of this set. I just didn't do very well on her animal companion or her eyes or necklace or anything. But I don't really care about her. I don't really care about him. Exodus, I don't really know much about him as well, but overall, these two are great, in my opinion. Not great, but good. And she is lackluster. And I forget every once in a while you need to show the back of the miniature. CP-186, Elsa Bloodstone, and Man-Thing. Now, clearly I had way more fun painting up Man-Thing than I did Elsa Bloodstone. For some reason her face was just rejecting paint, so it got a lot more thick than I wanted it. It was like 10 thin layers by the time I could get it to stop being gray. Overall, her hair proved difficult to get, so it didn't look like it was just her clothing. Got a little bit of a dark blue black with her accents to the orange. But now moving over to Man-Thing, he was a lot of fun to paint up. Just a lot of greens and browns. And then I added just some little details. He's got little mushrooms. I suppose I should turn him to the light. Really cool figure. Oftentimes I end on painting the figure I like more out of the box, and super happy with him. Cool set, mainly for Man-Thing. So, ready to hit the table with these ones. And that was the 2025 Year 6 Marvel Crisis Protocol releases. Today is actually November 15th, 2025, and we will get a peek at the roadmap for 2026 and a little bit beyond, maybe. I don't know. Probably just the rest of 2026, at least up until Q4, because it's mini-stravaganza today, so we'll get a look at Multiple Man and Red Hulk, and hopefully, Year 7 brings the Fantastic Four. Not that I'm huge fans of them, I just would like them to be part of the game. But as I roll into 2026, I will still paint and support this game, even though I don't think I've actually played it since 2023. But I still have the figures to paint because the hobby passes the time. But like I said a little earlier, sometimes it feels like I'm losing interest in painting. We'll see how it goes. But there's so many games and so much other content and stuff to play with people. It's hard to just stick with one game, especially when it's one that requires a lot to teach someone else how to play. Even though this game is very fun, I should get back into it. Now I'm just ranting. So I'll end this video. Thanks for taking a look at the paint jobs for the 2025 releases. Maybe if you missed a figure or didn't know one was released, this video will guide you to that. And you can see the other years in the playlist that I created with this video if you're so inclined.